You have been close before, closer than you want to admit. You were 3 weeks away from launching that project, 2 conversations away from closing the deal, 1 decision away from finally committing to the relationship. And then you pulled the plug, you burned it down, you disappeared. And afterwards, you told yourself a story. You said you were lazy. You said you lacked discipline. You said you were just not built for success. But what if that diagnosis is wrong? What if the moment you destroy everything is not a failure of character? What if it is your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do? Today, we are going to look at the neuroscience of self-sabotage. And I am going to show you that you are not broken. You are not weak. You are overheating. And once you understand the thermostat inside your brain, you can finally stop resetting yourself back to zero every time you get close to something real. Let's start with the pattern. You have probably lived this loop dozens of times. You start something new, a business, a relationship, a fitness routine. The beginning feels exciting. You are motivated, you are focused. You make real progress. People start noticing. Things are working. And then right when you are about to cross the finish line, something inside you shifts. You start finding problems that were not there before. You create conflict where there was none. You procrastinate on the final steps. You pick a fight. You ghost the client. You miss the deadline. And the whole thing collapses. You watch it fall apart, and part of you feels relieved. Because familiar failure feels safer than unfamiliar success. The chaos you created is terrible. But at least it is yours. At least you are back in control. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it the upper limit problem. But I prefer a different term. You have a success thermostat. And it is set too low. Think about the thermostat in your house. You set it to 70 degrees. When the temperature drops to 68, the heater kicks in. When it rises to 72, the air conditioning turns on. The system is not trying to make you uncomfortable. It is trying to maintain equilibrium. Your brain does the exact same thing with success. But instead of regulating temperature, it regulates your level of achievement, visibility, and happiness. Neuroscientists call this process self-concept homeostasis. Your brain has an internal image of who you are, and it will do anything to keep you inside that image. Even if that image is smaller than what you are capable of, here's how it works. When you were young, you absorbed thousands of signals from your environment. Some were explicit. Your parents told you money does not grow on trees. Your teacher said you were good at art but not math. Your family celebrated humility and mocked people who got too big for their boots. But most of the signals were implicit. You watched your parents stress about bills. You saw your older sibling get punished for standing out. You felt the tension in the room when someone in your community became successful. You noticed who got praised and who got shamed. You learned which emotions were acceptable and which had to be hidden. Maybe you got attention when you struggled but were ignored when you thrived. Maybe celebration felt dangerous because it always came before disappointment. Maybe you learned that asking for what you wanted meant being selfish. Your brain encoded all of this into a blueprint. This is what safety looks like. This is how much success people like us are allowed to have. This is how visible we are permitted to be. That blueprint became your thermostat setting. Now, fast forward to today. You start achieving beyond that setting. You make more money than your parents ever did. You get more attention than feels normal. You experience more happiness than you were taught to expect. And your brain does not celebrate, it panics. Because to your nervous system, unfamiliar does not mean good. Unfamiliar means dangerous. Neuroscience shows that your brain processes unfamiliar success the same way it processes a physical threat. Your amygdala fires, your cortisol spikes. You enter a low-grade fight or flight response. And because this feeling is so uncomfortable, your subconscious looks for a way to return to baseline. So it creates a crisis. It generates the exact behavior that will pull you back down to your set point. You are not destroying your success because you are lazy. You are destroying it because your nervous system is trying to save you from the perceived danger of being too visible, too successful, or too happy. Let me be very clear about something. You are not self-destructive. You are self-regulating. And there is a difference. If this were truly a character flaw, evolution would have eliminated it thousands of years ago. But it didn't. It kept it. Why? Because for most of human history, standing out was dangerous. The tall poppy gets cut down, the nail that sticks up gets hammered. In a small tribe, being too successful meant becoming a target. It meant jealousy. It meant exile. Your ancestors survived by staying within the acceptable range. By not threatening the social order, your thermostat is not broken. It is just calibrated for a world that no longer exists. So how do you fix this? You cannot just turn off the thermostat, but you can recalibrate it. And that requires 3 very specific strategies. The first is exposure tolerance. You have to teach your nervous system that success is not a threat. This means deliberately staying in the discomfort when things go well. Most people do the opposite when they get a compliment. They deflect it. When they have a good day, they brace for the other shoe to drop. When they make progress, they downplay it. That teaches your brain that success is something to escape from. Instead, you need to practice sitting in the unfamiliar feeling of winning. When someone praises your work, do not immediately change the subject. Pause. Let the compliment land. Notice the discomfort. Breathe through it. Feel the heat rising in your chest. Let it be there without fixing it. When you have a great week, do not sabotage Friday to keep things balanced. Let yourself have the whole week. This is not about arrogance. It is about desensitization. You are teaching your thermostat that 75 degrees is safe, then 80, then 85. The second strategy is identity rewrite. You cannot outperform your self-concept for long. If deep down you believe you are the kind of person who always struggles, you will create struggle, so you need to update the story. Start collecting evidence of your new identity. Keep a success log every day. Write down one moment where you acted like the person you are becoming. Not the huge wins, the small ones. You had a hard conversation instead of avoiding it. You finished the task instead of procrastinating. You said no to something that would have drained you. You chose rest instead of grinding through exhaustion. You spoke up in the meeting instead of staying silent over weeks and months. You build a library of proof. Your subconscious begins to believe the new story because you are showing it evidence every single day. This is not positive thinking. This is data collection. And data changes beliefs. Over time, this creates a new baseline. Your brain starts to see this version of you as normal, and the thermostat adjusts. The third strategy is preemptive awareness. You need to recognize the sabotage pattern before it happens. Your brain has a predictable playbook. Learn it. For most people, the sabotage shows up in one of 3 ways. Conflict creation. You pick a fight with your partner right before a big presentation. Manufactured chaos. You create a crisis that demands all your attention so you have an excuse to quit the main thing. Or invisible withdrawal. You go silent, you stop returning calls, you disappear. Once you know your pattern, you can catch it early. The key is to notice the specific trigger moment. For some people, it happens at 80% completion. For others, it is right after receiving praise. For others, it is the moment someone says they are proud of you. Identify your trigger, write it down. And when you feel it coming, name it out loud. Say to yourself, this is my thermostat trying to cool me down. This is not truth. This is temperature regulation. When you feel the urge to burn it all down, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this a real problem, or is my thermostat overheating? Here is the truth. You were never built to stay small. You were built to adapt. Your nervous system is just doing what it was trained to do. Protect you from the unfamiliar. But you can retrain it. You can teach it that success is not a threat, that visibility is not dangerous, that you are allowed to have more than your parents did, that you can be happy without waiting for the collapse. Stop calling it self-sabotage. Start calling it what it really is, a miscalibrated thermostat. And thermostats can be reset now. If this resonates with you, you might also struggle with something closely related. What happens when success does not just feel uncomfortable, but actually feels like you are betraying the people you came from? That is called survivor's guilt. And it is one of the most invisible forces keeping high achievers stuck. If you want to understand that pattern, I have broken it down in the next video. I will see you there.